Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Now in today's video I will teach you guys how to force equip tools. Now this was a common problem I had when I started scripting, and it's kind of difficult to do. It's kind of interesting that no one has ever showed me how to do this, or I could never find the right articles to learn how to do this. Okay, but over time I learned how to do it. So we have to go into starter player scripts, and we're going to disable our backpack. We're going to call the script local player, and inside of this script we will be getting the backpack, and this is going to disable backpack. And we're not going to disable our backpack folder, but we're just going to disable the icons, and that will make it so when we press our keyboard it won't be able to unequip or equip our tools. And that's the only way to just rewrite capability of unequipping a tool. So we have to do game.starter.GUI equals set core GUI enabled, and then we have to do enum.core GUI type dot backpack. Okay, and then we have to set it to false. So this right here is going to disable our backpack. Game.starter.GUI set GUI enabled equals enum.core GUI type dot backpack. You know the comma and then false. Okay, and false means that it's going to disable. If we set this to true, then it's just going to stay on, but it's already on by default, so we're just going to set it to false when the game begins. And yeah, so we won't be able to have those icons at the bottom of our screen. And after we do that, we want to detect the player's inputs. And the best way to do this would be in the starter character, because that is where our tools are going to be cloned. Like when we spawn in, we're going to know that we're going to receive new tools. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be using a starter character script. And inside of our starter character script, I'll call this local character. And inside of our starter character script, we're going to get something called UserInputService. So local UIS equals game get service UserInputService. Okay, not that, UserInputService. Okay, and this is going to detect all of the input that we receive in our game. We're going to create a local function here, local function, and let's call this function anything that we want. We'll call this on input. Okay, on input, we'll call that. And then we'll get the inputs and then automatically the chat, and this will just tell us if we're typing in chat. So the input and the chat, and that's our local function. And then we're going to connect it. So UIS.inputsBegan equals connect on input. And so as you can see here, UIS.inputBegan is an inbuilt function inside of the UIS or user input service, and it's going to detect whenever we press anything on our keyboard. Okay, so anything on our keyboard. And yeah, that's definitely what UIS is for. If you want to detect if it's a mobile button, you would use something called context action service. Context action service equals game get service context action. But that's for mobile players. Okay, but anyways, we have to detect what the input is, because it will detect any input that we press on our keyboard. So we have to detect if it's in chat. So we have to do if chat, then return n. And that basically means ignore. Okay, so if it says return in a function, that means that it's just going to ignore the function, and the function's not going to continue any further. Okay, and then we're going to do if input dot keycode, because that's an input type, dot keycode equals enum.keycode.1. Okay, so this is going to detect when we press 1. So we can add a note here, press 1. Okay, and then we'll add a note here on input, press. Okay, so any input pressed. Inputs pressed. Well, we'll call it like that, inputs pressed. So if input.keycode equals enum.keycode1, then then we press the number 1 key. Else if input.keycode equals enum.keycode.2, then we know that the 2 is pressed. So we'll just do pressed 2. Okay, and then we'll do pressed 1. Okay, and yeah, you can see how this is gonna go. Any input that you want to replicate, you just have to add in here. If you want to detect if we press the third key, you will just do enum.keycode.3, and yeah, just continue the string. But we should use a local variable. We could do local input get keycode, and then we could do input.keycode, and that's just gonna store it for us, so we don't have to repeat that. So we'll do get keycode, and then get keycode right here too. Get keycode, which is the same thing that we did before, but we're putting it in a variable, which is a little bit more better for our system. Okay, but anyways, we detected when we press 1 or 2. Now we have to actually do something. Okay, we detected it. Now what are we gonna do? We're gonna equip our tools. Okay, we have the classic sword and the time bomb. Okay, inside of our starter pack, and the starter pack automatically will replicate these tools into something called our player's backpack. So whenever a character dies and we respawn, it will go into our player's backpack. Okay, and a player is a different object than our character. Our character is the character model in the workspace. When we die, that is our character. Our player object is in game.players. But anyways, we have to get our player object, and that would be local players. We'll call it players equals game.players.local player. That's how we get a player. Oh, actually, we gotta call this player. Oops. And then that's how we get a player on the local side. So get local player, and this only works on the local scripts, okay, not on server scripts. And then we have to get the player's backpack. So we do local backpack equals player dot backpack. And if this script was in starter player scripts, we would have to wait for backpack, because backpack might not be there in time. So we would do player wait for child backpack. But because this is in starter character, we know that the backpack's gonna be loaded into the game on time, so we can just do player.backpack. And so we got the player's backpack. Now automatically these items will be placed in our backpack like we talked about, so we can just relate to them. And so we do local classic sword equals backpack dot classic sword. And we don't have to clone it because starter pack automatically clones into our character multiple times, so there's no point of cloning. Then we do local time bomb equals then we do backpack dot time bomb. Okay, there you go. So we got the time bomb, we got the classic sword. Now we have to detect the humanoid, and the humanoid is gonna be important because it's gonna make it so we can equip the tools. Okay, without the humanoid we wouldn't be able to equip the tools, so we have to get the humanoid from the character. And so we do local character equals script.parent, because automatically when we start our game, this script will be placed into our character. Okay, that's why it's called starter character scripts. This script right here, local character, is going to be placed into our character model, which is the thing in the workspace, and we spawn in, we can move around, jump around, and all that. Okay, so that's going to be script.parent, the parent of the script. So that it would be the folder right now, but when we start the game, it would be the character. Okay, and then we can get the humanoid. Local humanoid equals character wait for child humanoid. Now we just wait for our humanoid. Make sure that the humanoid is loaded into our game before we run the script. And also I will just wait. And the point I'm waiting is just to make sure that everything is loaded in correctly. And so I'm just gonna do task.wait 1, because I don't know, I think I had a little issue. There was like some little glitch that was going on. So task.wait is important, and this is just gonna wait 1 second. Okay, and I'm using task.wait rather than wait because wait is just bad, and I'll link a document onto that in the description onto why you should not use waits, and you should just stick to task.wait. And after that we do input pressed. Now we have the classic sword and the time bomb. Now we have to just equip them. So we do humanoid equals equip tool, and then we have the tool that we want to equip. We want to equip the classic sword, so we put classic sword and classic sword. There you go. So when we press the key 1, we equip the classic sword. Else if we press the key 2, and then we do humanoid equip tool, and then we do the time bomb. And there you go, we just did it. But the problem with doing this is that what if we press 1 multiple times? We do 1 1 1 1 1. We don't want to equip the tool multiple times, or else it's just going to look weird. So we want to make sure that we don't equip the tool multiple times, so we do something called a debounce. Okay, so we're going to use a debounce, and we'll call this debounce has sword. Okay, so when this sword is set to true, that means that we have the sword equipped, but right now we don't have it true, so we can set it to false. And this is false automatically when we don't put anything. Okay, but yeah, this equals false, just like that. Okay, so we don't have the sword. Now we want to equip the sword. Okay, so we just have to do and not has sword, which means that has sword equals false, which it is. Then equip the sword. So we're gonna do has sword equals true. There you go. So we have the sword, so we set it to true. Else if get key code equals enum.keycode.to and has sword, that means they have the sword currently. Then we're gonna set has sword to false and equip the time bomb. Okay, so has sword equals false because we don't want to equip the sword anymore. We want to equip the time bomb, so we set has sword to false. And there you go, we have a debounce. So when we press 1 multiple times, we're not gonna be equipping the classic sword multiple times. Okay, so you could add a remote note here. You could say to not equip tool multiple times. Okay, because they can spam a button, and that's just, you know, it wouldn't look good. It would not look good at all. And after we do that, I'm pretty sure everything should work. We'll run the game now. Okay, so we get the key code and then we detect it. Okay, so let's run the game now. And we disabled backpack, of course, so we don't see the icons on our screen. And that's the only way to detect if, you know, we have the backpack opened, of course. Alright, so our character is loading into the game. As we said before, this is our character object. And when we look inside of our character, we have the local character script just like we added in the starter character scripts. We're going to start a character. It replicates to our character's object. Okay, this is our character's model. And this is not our player. Our players is here. Game.players is our player's object right there. And players has our backpack like we talked about, and our backpack has our tools. So that's basically what we did. We just related those items. And now when we press 1, our tool is equipped. And when we press 2, our time bomb is equipped. Now say if you want to equip this right on the get-go. When you spawn into the game right away, your tool is going to equip into your hand. Now we can do that right now. So let's stop the game, and we're going to equip the tool as soon as we spawn in our game. And in order to do that, we'll just call our function on the first time. Because this is only going to detect when it changes, we want to detect when it runs down. So we just do on input, and then we have to put the input type. Okay, so the input, we're going to just replicate it. So we're going to do a table. Okay, a table is with brackets. As you see here, those are brackets. And inside of our brackets, we're gonna put our key code. So input.keycode inputs the table, and then we have .keycode. So we're gonna do keycode equals enum, or one equals enum.keycode dot 1. Okay, just like that. So we set the key code to 1, and that's just gonna kind of act like the input began. This is pretty much what the input began would send. It would send a table of the item that the inputs bring. So pretty much this is like what the input began is sending to the function. And we're just gonna do the same thing. And we don't have to put the chat, because if we put chat, chat's automatically gonna be false if we don't even pass in the chat parameter with the function. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So this is going to initialize our tool on spawn. Okay, so I mean, let's just say equip tool on spawn. Equip tool on spawn. So we don't have to press 1 to equip our tool on the get-go. And we can run this right now, so we can show it. So I can show you that it does work. And we have we're running into the game, and it works. There's no errors. This is a core script error. I'm not sure why this is happening, but yeah, we have the tool. It equipped. I did not press any key. I just spawned in our game, and the tool pressed, and I could just switch the second, the first, the second, okay. And same in gun games, like let's say Phantom Forces, they would use something like the mouse or the mouse scrolling. Okay, so they would scroll the mouse, and when you scroll the mouse, our tool would be changing. Okay, so when we scroll in, our tool would change to the bomb, and then when we scroll out, our tool would change to that to the sword. And yeah, we can definitely do that. So I'll show you how to use the mouse scrolling to equip our tools. Okay, and it's gonna be a different connection. Okay, so this is gonna be inputs pressed. This one right here would be inputs changed. Okay, the ones that we're gonna be doing right now. Inputs changed. Okay, and this is just an input type. So input types changed. Okay, and we're going to create a new local function on type input. Okay, that means that we got a different type. Then we're going to get the input type and then the chat again, because we don't know if the chat's open. And so with input type, let's do UIS, so user input service dot input changed, which detects our input that changes, and then connect input type. Okay, and then we yeah, I mean on input type. Okay, but that's our function, on type input. On type input, because that's what's passed with the connect operator. We pass that function that we want to pass to, and automatically the input change parameter will pass the input type and the chat. Same thing as the input began. That connects the function. It will pass input and chat with input began. Okay, it would pass those arguments automatically. And with that, we can just do if chat, then return end. We don't want to have the chat. We don't want to detect chat input, and then we have to detect the input type, and that would be the mouse. So we do if input type equals dot, what is it, input type equals enum dot input user inputs type. My bad, it is called user input type. So we have to change this to user input type. Dot user input type equals enum dot user input type dot mouse wheel. Okay, so when we use our mouse wheel, we want to change our weapons. Okay, so now we have to just do the opposite of what we do, of what we have. Okay, so if we have the classic sword, switch it. So do the exact opposite. Okay, and then let's add a note here. We'll add mouse wheel. Okay, so that detects when our mouse is scrolling. Okay, and now we have to just do the exact opposite. So we do humanoid equip tool, and then we inside of this we have to equip the tool that we want. And so what I will do here is get we want to detect if we already have the sword. So we do has sword, and then we're going to use something called and. So and time bomb, or yeah, time bomb. Okay, so this is gonna say if we have the sword, then equip the time bomb. Okay, so if we have the sword, equip the time bomb. Or if we don't have the sword, so or equip the classic sword. So this will pass in a classic sword if has sword is false. So if we don't have the sword, equip the sword. If we do have the sword, equip the time bomb. Okay, so that's pretty much what we're doing there. And then we're gonna do we're gonna just switch has sword, because automatically we know that it's gonna switch when we switch the tools. We're gonna do has sword equals not has sword. So that's just gonna switch it. Okay, we're gonna add our cooldown, so when we scroll in and out, it doesn't happen multiple times. So we're gonna get something called last tick equals tick. Okay, so that's just gonna detect our current tick, we can detect if 1 second went by, and if it has, then we can use the mouse wheel again. Okay, so if input type dot user input type equals enum dot user input type dot mouse wheel, and that means we're gonna add to it, and the tick, the current tick. Actually, let's just make a variable. Local current tick equals tick. Okay, so that means the tick that's happening right now. If current tick, so the time right now minus the last tick. Okay, so the last tick was up here. So yeah, let's just do last tick. And then equals enum.userinputType.mouse, and current tick minus last tick is greater than or equal to the amount of seconds that we want to cool down. So let's say we want to detect this every 0.8 seconds. Okay, so every 0.8 seconds it will detect if we're scrolling. Okay, because we don't want to scroll that fast. And now we have to just reset the last tick. So we're going to do last tick equals current tick, just like that. So that's going to detect from the last time we scrolled, has it been 0.8 seconds, just so we don't scroll that fast. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we have a 0.8 second cooldown with our scrolling, so we can't just scroll to our second tool fast. Alright, so we have our and then we can scroll. Okay, it's not that fast, as you guys can see. Yeah, and Phantom Forces, you would be in first person, so you couldn't even zoom in and out in Phantom Forces. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. The final tip I want to tell you guys is to just use these scripts for other things. If you have to detect other user input services or other user detections, use the same connections. Alright, do not create a new script and just create another UIS.inputBegin. Use the same one that we already have here. Okay, that would make more sense, right? We want to combine our scripts together. So definitely use local character for multiple different things. Do not just leave it alone. I would just, if you have other scripts in the local starter character scripts, combine those scripts into one. Okay, it would make much more sense to combine all character functionalities into one local script. Okay, that would be the most efficient. Same thing with the local player. You wouldn't want to just preserve it for just disabling the backpack. That just wouldn't make sense. Use the script for multiple things because these guys take up memory, of course. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys liked today's video. Definitely like and subscribe for more content like this one, and I'll see you guys next time.